Welcome back to Attic Law. Tonight we step into the silent, snow-covered streets of Boulder, Colorado on the morning after Christmas 1996. While the rest of the world was waking up to the glow of holiday lights, a nightmare was unfolding inside the 15-room mansion of Jon and Patsy Ramsey. It is a case that has lived in the headlines for nearly 30 years. It involves a 6-year-old beauty queen, a bizarrely long ransom note, and a basement room that held a secret the world is still trying to decode. Tonight, we move past the tabloid covers and the pageant photos to examine the cold, hard facts of a case that redefined how we look at justice, the media, and the safety of the American home. Chapter 1: The 911 Call and the Impossible Note. Our story begins at 5:52 a.m. on December 26, 1996. Patsy Ramsey, a former Miss West Virginia, placed a frantic call to 911. Her voice was trembling as she told the dispatcher she had found a ransom note on the back staircase and that her daughter JonBenét was missing. When the police arrived, they were presented with one of the strangest pieces of evidence in criminal history: a 3-page, handwritten ransom note. It was not a clipped-together collage of newspaper letters, but a long, rambling manifesto written with a Sharpie on a notepad that belonged to the Ramseys themselves. The note claimed to be from a small foreign faction and demanded exactly $118,000, a figure that happened to be the exact amount of Jon Ramsey's annual bonus that year. It warned the parents that the 2 gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, and it gave strict instructions not to contact the authorities. The note was a paradox. It was too long, too theatrical, and written inside the house while the family was allegedly asleep. It was the first sign that this was not a typical kidnapping. Chapter 2: The Search and the Discovery. For 7 hours, the Ramsey home was a hive of activity. Police, friends, and family members moved through the house, waiting for a call from the kidnappers that never came. In a critical error that would haunt the case forever, the police failed to secure the home as a crime scene. At approximately 1 p.m., a detective suggested that Jon Ramsey and a family friend, Fleet White, search the house to see if anything was amiss. They went to the basement. In a small, windowless wine cellar room, Jon Ramsey made the discovery that would shatter the world's heart. He found the body of his 6-year-old daughter. She was covered with a white blanket, her hands were bound above her head, and a piece of duct tape was across her mouth. Jon picked her up and carried her upstairs, screaming. In that single act of grief, the last remnants of a pristine crime scene were destroyed. Forensic evidence was moved, DNA was contaminated, and the mystery was sealed in the basement. Chapter 3: The Autopsy and the Garrote. The autopsy revealed a brutal reality that contradicted the idea of a simple kidnapping. JonBenét had died from asphyxiation due to strangulation, associated with a massive craniocerebral trauma. The killer had used a garrote, a device made from a piece of cord and a broken paintbrush handle from Patsy Ramsey's art supplies. It had been twisted around her neck with professional precision. She also had an 8.5-inch fracture to her skull, caused by a blow so powerful it had occurred before or during the strangulation. There were other, more unsettling details. 2 small circular marks on her back and neck that some experts claimed were from a stun gun, and evidence of digital penetration that suggested a sexual element to the crime. The complexity of the murder, the blow to the head, the garrote, the ransom note, suggested a killer who was either incredibly organized or someone who was desperately trying to stage a scene to look like something it wasn't. Chapter 4: The Court of Public Opinion. In the weeks following the murder, the media became obsessed with the Ramseys. JonBenét was a child beauty queen, and the footage of her in heavy makeup and elaborate costumes was played on a loop. This created a specific narrative in the public's mind: a stage mother and a wealthy father living a hollow, high-pressure life. The Boulder Police Department quickly focused their investigation on the parents. They pointed to the fact that there were no footprints in the snow outside the house. The ransom note was written on family stationery, and the parents' behavior seemed rehearsed to some investigators. For years, the world was divided into 2 camps: those who believed an intruder had broken into the home, and those who believed the family was involved in a tragic accident and a subsequent cover-up. The Ramseys were never charged, but they lived under a cloud of suspicion that would never fully lift. Chapter 5. The Intruder Theory, the DNA. While the police looked at the parents, the evidence began to point toward an outsider. In the early 2000s, forensic testing discovered touch DNA on the waistband of JonBenét's leggings and underneath her fingernails. This DNA belonged to an unidentified male. It did not match John Ramsey, it did not match her brother Burke, and it did not match anyone in the FBI's CODIS database. The intruder theory gained traction. Proponents pointed to a broken basement window, an unidentified footprint in the basement, and the stun gun marks. They argued that a predator had been stalking JonBenét, perhaps through the pageant circuit, and had entered the home through the window while the family was at a Christmas dinner. In 2008, the district attorney officially exonerated the Ramseys based on this DNA evidence, citing that a third party was responsible for the crime. However, the debate didn't end there. Critics argued that the DNA could have been transfer DNA from the manufacturing process of the clothing. Chapter 6. The Accident and Cover-Up Theory. The opposing theory remains one of the most discussed in true crime history. It suggests that on the night of December 25th, an accident occurred, perhaps a struggle between JonBenét and another family member over a snack of pineapple found in her stomach during the autopsy. According to this theory, the head injury was an accident, and the parents, in a state of panic and desperation to protect their remaining child or their reputation, staged the kidnapping. They wrote the long note to buy time and created the garrote to make it look like the work of a sadistic intruder. Linguistic experts analyzed the ransom note, noting that many of the phrases used, "listen carefully," "use your good judgment," were found in movies like Speed and Dirty Harry, films that were in the Ramsey home. However, no physical evidence ever definitively linked the parents or their son, Burke, to the actual killing. The theory remains purely circumstantial, built on behavioral analysis and the oddities of the note. Chapter 7. The Grand Jury and the Secret Indictment. In 1999, a grand jury was convened to hear the evidence. For over a year, they listened to testimony and reviewed the files. In a shock to the public, they actually voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey on charges of child abuse resulting in death and accessory to a crime. But the district attorney, Alex Hunter, refused to sign the indictment. He believed that the evidence was too weak to secure a conviction in front of a trial jury, specifically because of the unidentified DNA. This secret indictment remained hidden from the public for 14 years. When it was finally released in 2013, it reopened the wounds of the case, revealing that the people closest to the evidence believed the family had a case to answer. Chapter 8. The Modern Search, Genetic Genealogy. We are now in the era of investigative genetic genealogy. We have seen cold cases like the Golden State Killer solved using DNA from public genealogy sites. In recent years, the push to use this technology on the JonBenét Ramsey samples has become a legal battle. The Ramsey family and many private investigators are demanding that the Boulder police release the samples to be tested by modern private labs. The hope is that the unidentified male DNA can be traced to a family tree. If we can find the owner of that DNA, we find the person who was in the basement that night. Whether that person is a killer or an innocent person who touched a garment in a factory is the final question of the case. Chapter 9. The Legacy of a Lost Child. Beyond the theories and the DNA, there is the story of a 6-year-old girl. JonBenét Ramsey has become a symbol of the dark side of the American dream. Her life was spent in the spotlight of the pageant stage, and her death became a commodity for a hungry media cycle. The case changed the way we view home security, the way police handle high-profile investigations, and the way we analyze the behavior of grieving parents. But for all the millions of words written about her, JonBenét remains a mystery, a child who went to sleep on Christmas night and never woke up. Chapter 10. Conclusion, the final question. The JonBenét Ramsey case is a puzzle with too many pieces. If you believe the intruder theory, the ransom note makes no sense. If you believe the family theory, the DNA makes no sense. It is a crime that lives in the in-between, a shadow that falls between two impossible truths. The basement in Boulder is empty now. Patsy Ramsey passed away in 2006, never knowing who killed her daughter. John Ramsey continues to fight for the DNA to be tested, and the world continues to look at that 2.5-page note, searching for a name that isn't there. Now we want to hear from you. Do you believe the DNA is the smoking gun that proves an intruder was in the house? Or do you think the ransom note is a clear blueprint of a cover-up? Why do you think this case, after nearly 30 years, still refuses to be forgotten? Let us know your theories in the comments below. If you enjoy diving into the shadows of history's most baffling mysteries, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us next time on Attic Law. May she finally find the peace that justice has yet to provide.